My childhood friend is the top student in our grade. In order to help the school beauty who was at the bottom of her class get into Harvard with him, he decided to help her cheat on the college entrance exam. I told him that cheating is against the law and urged him not to act impulsively. Later, he took the advice and didn't help the school beauty cheat, and he and I both got into Harvard. After graduation, we naturally ended up together, living a comfortable and happy life. But just as I was about to give birth, he refused to take me to the hospital, leaving me to suffer through the pain until I died. Feeling hopeless. You deserve it. Schwer was even more hopeless than you were in the exam room at the time. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. I was reborn to the day when my childhood friend told me he was going to help the school beauty cheat on her college entrance exam. Lin Shui wanted me to help her cheat on the college entrance exam. When I heard Guchen say that, the pain in my stomach hadn't completely subsided yet. In my previous life, Guchen asked me the same thing. I told him that cheating on the college entrance exam is a criminal offense, and urged him not to jeopardize his future because of people who have nothing to do with him. He took it to heart and did as he was told. Later, we were both accepted into the same university, got jobs at the same company, and eventually ended up together. After we got married, he would always speak to me so gently. Thank you, Xiaoyan. If you hadn't talked me out of cheating before the college entrance exam, I really don't know where I'd be right now. But just as I was about to give birth and asked him to take me to the hospital, he changed his mind. He said to me in a harsh, cold tone, "If you hadn't told me not to cheat, I really don't know how happy I'd be with Schwer right now. It's all your fault that Schwer and I can't be together. If you hadn't gotten in the way, Schwer would have been admitted to the same university as Mio stole her spot." Feeling hopeless. You deserve it. Schwer was even more hopeless than you were in the exam room at the time. He took my cell phone away, cutting off all my means of communication with the outside world. Then he sat down on the couch with a smile, quietly watching me writhe in pain on the floor, his face radiating the satisfaction of having finally gotten his revenge. In the end, I died in agony, taking 2 lives with me. Xiao Yan, did you hear that? I said Lin Shui wants me to help her cheat on the college entrance exam. Guchen thought I was spacing out, so he repeated himself. He looked at me with sparkling eyes, as if he were expecting something. I just replied casually, "Oh." After saying that, I turned and walked away without saying another word. This time, I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. I just want to cut ties with him immediately. If he wants to cheat, let him cheat. I choose to respect the fate of others. After hearing what I said, Guchen froze. He tugged at my sleeve, a hint of scrutiny in his eyes. "Oh, what? Song Yan, were you even listening to what I was saying? I told you that Lin Shui wanted me to help her cheat on the college entrance exam. Aren't you going to stop me?" I frowned. "It's your own business. Why should I stop you? You can just make your own decision." Gu Chen's face was a picture of hesitation. "But cheating on the college entrance exam is against the law. If you get caught, the consequences could range from having your scores invalidated to going to jail." Huh. So he actually knew that cheating on the college entrance exam is against the law. Is he afraid of going to jail? 2. He didn't dare help Lin Shui cheat, but he also felt awkward about turning her down. So he told me about it so I could step in and play the bad guy for him. In his previous life, he was simply going with the flow. Once I realized this, my contempt for Guchen grew even stronger. Just as I was thinking about how to get rid of Guchen, Lin Shui, Guchen's crush and the school beauty of first high school, made an appearance. She was wearing a white dress, and a radiant smile lit up her delicate, petite face. Even without a trace of makeup, she was a vision of beauty. When she saw Guchen, she smiled and said, "Top of the class. What a coincidence. I can't believe I ran into you here." When she saw me, Lin Shui looked a little surprised. "Is this your girlfriend?" I have to say, the goddess's words really do work. As soon as Lin Shui said that, Guchen immediately pushed me away as if he'd been electrocuted. Guchen hurriedly explained, "No. She's just a neighbor of mine. I have no relationship with her whatsoever." Lin Shui nodded in understanding. She blinked her big, bright eyes and asked him with a smile, "By the way, top student, how have you been thinking about that thing we mentioned earlier? Can you give me a definite answer now?" Gu-chin was smiling so hard he couldn't even keep his eyes open. Lin Shui kept calling him top of the class and a straight-A student, flattering Gu-chin until he was completely smitten. But I could tell he was still a little hesitant. He said, looking troubled, "I want to help you, but Song Yan's mom and my mom are very close friends. And I'm afraid she'll tell on me to my mom. I'm speechless, actually wants me to take the blame." How dare he? I cut him off without hesitation. "Well, you're overthinking it. I'm not in the mood to get involved in your business. And I'm not childish enough to go tattle on you to your mom. If you want to help, help. If you don't, just say no, but don't try to pin everything on me." Lin Shui understood. She said, looking a little embarrassed, top student, if you don't want to help turn them down, that's fine, there's no need to make up excuses like that." Gu-chin felt extremely embarrassed. He shot me a resentful glance, then hurried to explain to Lin Shui, "That's not what I meant, I was just worried about that for a moment. But now that Song Yan has said that, I feel reassured." As he spoke, he finally made up his mind. "About that thing you mentioned, I'll do it." At that moment, the teenager's impulsiveness got the better of his reason. He decided to stake his future on winning the heart of the woman he loved. After hearing him speak, Lin Shui's eyes lit up. She fluttered into Gu Chen's arms like a little white dove and said, her voice filled with emotion, "That's great, Gu Chen. Thank you. If we end up going to the same college, I'll be your girlfriend." Gu Chen felt a bit giddy. He held Lin Shui in his arms, so overcome with emotion that he didn't know where to put his hands. After a moment, he said with a determined look in his eyes, "I'll make sure you get into the same college as me." Lin Shui nodded, deeply moved. "I believe in you." While the two of them were standing on the street, all lovey-dovey, I slipped away on the sly. The college entrance exam is tomorrow, and I'm still busy rushing home to review the material. I really don't have time to watch those two show off their affection. Fortunately, I still have the memories of this body, so I can draw on my high school knowledge effortlessly. Otherwise, given my intellectual capacity in my previous life when I was in my 20s, it's not even certain I would have been able to get into college. To my surprise, when I opened the door, I saw Li Wan, Gu Chen's mother. She was standing there, giving my mom a hard time. "Tell me, given my son's grades, should he choose Harvard or Yale? What if he does too well on his exams and Harvard and Yale come knocking on our door to recruit him? They're both top-tier universities. It wouldn't be right to turn either one down." My mom stood there, laughing nervously. Chin really is a promising young man, unlike my daughter, who just thinks about playing all day and barely scraped into Harvard or Yale. My mom was actually agreeing with her. Unexpectedly, Li Wan wasn't happy when she heard that. "My son is a bit of a troublemaker. To runs around and plays after class, but he's just so smart that he always comes in first in his grade." What she meant was that her son doesn't study hard. The reason he came in first in his grade is because he's naturally smart. My mom didn't say anything. She just smiled with a hint of resignation. She had grown accustomed to Li Wan's competitive behavior. After all, while it's true that Li Wan and my mom were close friends, even though they spent their whole lives together, Li Wan also spent her whole life comparing herself to my mom. When we're kids, we compare what we eat and wear. When we grow up, we compare our grades. And once we're married, we compare our husbands. But from childhood on, she had hardly ever been able to outdo my mom. It wasn't until she gave birth to Guchen, that genius son of hers, that she finally got to hold her head high in front of my mom. Especially after her husband died, she devoted herself entirely to Guchen, boasting to everyone she met about how smart her son was. She especially liked to compare me to Guchen, because my grades have always been a little worse than his. However, her smugness will only last until today. When Li Wan saw me, there was a smile in her eyes. But it didn't reach her eyes. "Yen Yen, are you back? Are you nervous about the college entrance exam tomorrow?" I smiled politely. It's okay. A hint of barely perceptible sarcasm flashed across Li Wan's eyes. Oh. That's great. Do your best and try to come in second. Maybe you'll get into the same school as my son Qinchin. Oh. It's fine to work hard. But going to the same school as Guchen is out of the question. I sure don't want to end up in jail for taking an exam. After muttering a couple of half-hearted replies, I made up an excuse about needing to study and went back to my room. As I walked back into the room, I could still hear Li Wan going on and on. Lan Ji, don't put too much pressure on Yen Yen. After all, girls aren't as smart as boys to begin with, so no matter how hard she tries, she'll never be able to keep up with my son Qinchin. For a girl, her current grades are already pretty good. During the college entrance exams, I performed as I usually do, building on my college entrance exam scores from my previous life. I've also reviewed and corrected the few questions I got wrong last time, so I expect my score will be even higher than it was in my previous life. I'm very happy. Gu Qin and Lin Shui were also very happy. It seemed as though the two of them had successfully passed the answer to each other. And Gu Qin even thought he'd done a pretty good job. They'd both already started daydreaming about studying together at Harvard in the future. Li Wan also really likes Lin Shui. When she mentioned that her gifted son had found a girlfriend as beautiful as a big-name star, she got even more carried away. She started acting all high and mighty in front of my mom again. Lan Ji, it's about time you started thinking about Xiao Yan. Her grades aren't as good as Chen Chen's, and she's not as pretty as Lin Shui. What's going to happen to her in the future? If you ask me, you'd better find her a boyfriend right away. After all, with such an outstanding young man like my son Chen Chenwo was snatched up before he even started college, she'll end up having to settle for whatever's left over. My mom might not mind when she praises her son, but if she puts me down, she won't stand for it. My mom said coldly. In my eyes, my daughter is the best. She doesn't need to find a partner. I can support her for the rest of her life. Li Wan, you really shouldn't say things like that again. Seeing how my mom was standing up for me like that, she didn't feel comfortable saying anything else, so she quietly changed the subject. Still, she wasn't ready to accept it. After leaving my house, she murmured softly, "Pfft. She's just some little girl. Why make such a big deal out of her? Unlike my Sanwo's smart and capable, he's a million times better than this little girl." To show off how outstanding her son is, she tells everyone in the neighborhood that he's at the top of his class and that, after the college entrance exams, he started dating the school's most popular girl and that both of them are aiming for Harvard. The top student in his grade and the school's most popular girl with outstanding grades, a perfect match of a brilliant young man and a beautiful young woman. Thanks to Li Wan's publicity efforts, Gu Chen and Lin Shui's romance quickly caught the attention of television stations. A TV station crew came specifically to interview Gu Chen. At that, Li Wan's nose practically turned skyward. To show off, she specifically chose the neighborhood garden as the location for the TV interview. Fine. An interview it is, but she insisted that my parents take me along, saying she wanted me to get some exposure by riding on her son's coattails. In front of the camera, she's still as versatile as ever. My son doesn't study much usually, but he's just naturally smart. Actually, it's not all good when your child is too outstanding. When other parents discuss their children's education, I can't even get a word in after all. Even if I didn't do anything, my child would easily come in first in the class. At the same time, she couldn't resist taking a dig at me. Of course, I'm not saying that hard work is a bad thing. There's a saying that hard work makes up for lack of talent. My good friend's daughter may not be as smart as my son, but she makes up for it with her hard work, and she was still able to get into the same university as my son. These remarks made the neighbors around them extremely envious. Who wouldn't envy a child who is both smart and such a breeze to raise? Everyone praised Li Wan for her excellent parenting skills. However, compared to Li Wan's speech, the reporters were clearly more interested in Gu Chen and Lin Shui. Li Wan had only said a few words when the reporter hurriedly cut her off and turned his attention to Gu Chen and Lin Shui. You two, would you mind sharing your study tips with everyone? Lin Shui had her arm linked through Gu Chen's, and the two of them were now openly wearing matching outfits. Bathed in the sunlight, they looked like a perfect couple. Gu Chen smiled. My most valuable learning experience was helping my classmates. Before the college entrance exam, I helped Lin Shui review for a while. Not only did this improve her grades, but it also allowed me to reinforce what I had learned. I think this was the best decision I made during high school. Lin Shui looked at him with a smile, as if she were looking at her hero. This time, they really stole the show. Just then, two children came running quickly from the entrance to the residential complex. He ran while shouting, "People from Harvard and Yale are here to snatch the top spot." By the way, the police showed up, probably because they were afraid the admissions staff from the two schools might get into a fight. Who on earth is so amazing? Our neighborhood actually produced the top scorer on the citywide college entrance exam. The onlookers immediately erupted into a frenzy. That goes without saying. It's definitely Li Wan's son, Gu Chen. He's at the top of his class if he's not the city's top student. Then who is? It's as if smoke is rising from our ancestors' graves. Li Wan is so lucky to have raised such an outstanding son. It's enough to make anyone green with envy. Upon hearing this, Li Wan's smile stretched from ear to ear. Gu Chen, however, looked as if he had expected this. His face as gentle as ever. Seeing this, everyone became even more convinced that Gu Chen was the top-ranked student, and they showered him and Li Wan with even more praise. Before long, representatives from the admissions offices at Harvard and Yale arrived. After spotting the people wearing clothing bearing the Harvard and Yale logos, Gu Chen strode over to them. Gu Chen asked casually, "Go ahead. What offers did Harvard and Yale make you, respectively? But let me make one thing clear. Wherever Schwer goes, I'll go too. When you're setting your terms, you'll have to take Schwer's wishes into account as well." The admissions officers at Harvard and Yale exchanged puzzled glances. A faint smile played at the corner of Gu Chen's mouth, and his tone was laid back. "The top student in my grade at first high schooler, as you call him. The city's top student, Gu Chen." Pfft. A staff member at Harvard's admissions office couldn't help but laugh. He said with a mix of laughter and exasperation, "Young man, you're not the top student we're looking for. She's a girl named Song Yen." Gu Chen's smile froze on his face. The neighborhood, which had been somewhat noisy, fell completely silent. After a brief silence, my mom suddenly let out a marmot-like scream. "Oh, it's my daughter. My daughter, Chao Yen, came in first place." My mom looked as if she'd been hit by a giant pie. She was feeling a bit dazed. "Honey, pinch me." My dad's face was flushed red, and his expression was full of excitement and pride. Hearing my mom say that, I was a little taken aback. "Huh. Let me see if it hurts. I'm afraid this is just a dream." Oh, sure enough. My dad is a straight guy. After hearing that, he gave my mom a hard pinch on the arm. She winced in pain and, furious, slapped him. However, the smile on my mother's face didn't fade anything. It grew even broader. "It's not a dream. My daughter really did come in first on the college entrance exam, in contrast to the joy and excitement on our side." Gu Chen and Li Wan's eyes were filled with repression. Li Wan quickly grabbed the Harvard admissions officer and asked, "Teacher, did Harvard make a mistake? How could this girl possibly be the top student? My son's grades have always been better than hers." "Did you mix up her grades with my son's?" The admissions office staff seemed a bit helpless. "Ma'am, you're worrying too much. This is a matter of college admissions. How could we possibly mix them up?" Li Wan seemed to sense the stares around her. Just a moment ago, everyone was praising her, but now they're looking at her as if she were a laughingstock. She got flustered. How could that be? How could a mere girl be the top scholar? There must be something fishy going on here. She must have copied someone else's work. That's right. She must have copied it. Seeing how she was being so unreasonable, my dad was furious. He said angrily, "Li Wan, are you out of your mind? My daughter is the top scorer. If she'd just gotten a high score on a regular exam, I might have suspected she cheated. But she's the top scorer. Tell me, who could possibly cheat their way to the top score?" Li Wan clearly realized she was in the wrong, but she still refused to believe it. Because she couldn't accept that her son, the one she was most proud of, had actually lost to me. She protested. Maybe she copied from several people and just happened to get all the right answers. I don't care, you must investigate this cheating incident thoroughly. Give my son back his top scorer title. My mom was furious. What gives you the right to accuse my daughter of cheating? Her usual grades are good enough to get into Harvard or Yale. It's only natural that she'd excel this time and come in first. Don't go slandering people just out of jealousy. A representative from Yale's admissions office also spoke up. The parents of this male student. With all due respect, even if Song Yan isn't the top scorer, it certainly isn't your son who's in line to be the top scorer. That's because the name Guchen doesn't even appear in the top 50 in the city. I understand how much you want your son to succeed, but you have to be realistic. After those words were spoken, Li Wan and Guchen stood there, completely stunned. Not even making it into the top 50 in the city meant that Guchen wasn't even eligible to attend Harvard or Yale. If even he can't go, then Lin Shui certainly can't. This interview with the top student in the grade turned into a complete farce. Li Wan couldn't believe it. She muttered, "That's impossible. You must have made a mistake. Maybe Song Yan switched her answer sheet with my son's. Yes. That must be it. That's crazy. She still thinks it's my fault that her son didn't do well on the exam. But why doesn't she stop and think about why her son didn't do well on the exam? Was it because they didn't perform well? Or were their results disqualified because they made some kind of mistake? I thought of that. And I imagine Guchen probably thought of it too. His face was pale, and cold sweat was beading on his forehead. But Li Wan didn't even notice what was going on with her son. She stubbornly believed that I had switched her son's test paper and kept crying foul. Just then, she noticed several police officers walking toward her slowly. She hurried over in a flash. "Officers, you must do justice for my son. His classmate, Song Yan, cheated by swapping my son's exam paper and took his place to become the city's top student." Guchen tried to stop her, but he couldn't stop her at all. Guchen was about to burst. He tried to help Li Wan to her feet, but she pushed him away. "Chin Chin, don't be afraid. Whenever we encounter injustice, we have to tell the police. The police will stand up for us." The police officer in charge raised an eyebrow. "Chin Chin, are you Guchen?" Li Wan quickly nodded her head. "Just like a chick pecking at grain. That's right. My son is Guchen, the famous top student in his grade at First High School. Officer, since you know my Chin Chin, this will be easy to handle. Go ahead and arrest Song Yan for cheating." The police officer paused for a moment, then said, "What a coincidence, are we actually here to investigate the cheating incident? But it wasn't Song Yan who cheated. It was Guchen and Lin Shui." With that, the police officer turned to Guchen. "Guchen, Lin Shui, our investigation has revealed that you exchanged answers during the college entrance exam, which constitutes suspected cheating. Please come with us." Upon hearing this, Li Wan nearly fainted from shock. She simply couldn't believe that not only had her son failed to become the top scorer on the college entrance exam, but he was actually going to be arrested for cheating on it. She was completely dumbfounded. Guchen seemed to be at a loss for words as well. He hadn't said a word. It wasn't until he was about to be taken away by the police that Guchen began to struggle. Just then, he saw me. He immediately started yelling and screaming, "Song Yan! It was you, Yuri, the one who ratted me out, aren't you? You were the only one who knew I was planning to help Lin Shui cheat. If it wasn't you, then who else could it have been?" It's funny when you think about it. Li Wan didn't blame Lin Shui for asking Guchen to help her cheat, but just like his son, she turned her anger toward me. She pointed her finger at my nose and yelled at me, "Song Yan, you're so heartless. Just because my son likes another girl, you're deliberately trying to ruin him, aren't you? How can you be so cruel? I've always treated you well. Is this how you repay me?" The more she talked, the more agitated she became. She even tried to rush at me and hit me. Of course, my dad stepped in and shoved her aside. The police officer pretended not to notice and turned to explain on my behalf. "Who says he was reported? There are surveillance cameras all over the exam room. He thought he was hiding it well, but in fact, it had already been caught on camera. You still want to cheat on the college entrance exam? You're being way too naive. To put it simply, Gu-chin has brought his current situation entirely upon himself. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. Finally, Gu-chin lost all hope. He was led away by the police as if he had accepted his fate, without putting up the slightest resistance. It's truly ironic that the police Li Wan called herself ended up taking her own son away. In contrast, consider this farce. The biggest beneficiaries, aside from my mom, were the TV station staff. What started as a story about an ordinary couple of academic stars has turned into a massive scandal. It would be unthinkable for such a thrilling and sensational story not to go viral. They quickly turned their cameras toward me. This interview, which was originally intended for Gu-chin, ended up being all about me. Didn't Li Wan say at first that I should ride on Gu-chin's coattails to get some exposure? Well, she certainly got what she asked for. In the end, I decided to go to Harvard after all. As for Gu-chin, although he was not sentenced to prison, all his exam scores were invalidated, and he was barred from taking the college entrance exam for 3 years. Lin Shui was no exception. In my previous life, thanks to my advice, Gu-chin didn't help Lin Shui cheat, so he came in first place on the college entrance exam and became a renowned top scorer. This time, he managed to help Lin Shui as he'd hoped, but in doing so, he ruined his own future. He was no longer the top-ranked graduate riding high on success, but a foolish romantic and an unfortunate soul blacklisted by the higher education system. Originally, even if Gu-chin's cheating had been discovered, the school wouldn't have made it public. But unfortunately, Li Wan had asked the TV station to interview Gu-chin right from the start, and the interview was broadcast live. The entire incident was posted online exactly as it happened, so even if Gu-chin wanted to keep it a secret, it was impossible. The student who was once the top contender for the #1 spot is now someone that first high school wants nothing to do with. At first, Gu-chin tried to reassure himself, even though I won't be able to go to college now, at least I have Lin Shui, right? For her sake, whatever I do is worth it. That day, after attending the Outstanding Graduates Awards ceremony, I ran into Gu-chin on my way home. When he saw the medal hanging around my neck, his eyes were practically brimming with tears, but he still acted as if nothing had happened. He said this, pretending to be nonchalant. Pfft. So what if it's just the top student? I don't care. I've come in first so many times in high school, this one doesn't matter. People like you just know how to bury your nose in books. Even if you get into Harvard, so what? You'll probably still be unable to find a job after you graduate. Can't find a job. If I hadn't lived through it all before, I might have believed it. When I think about my annual salary of several $100,000 in my past life and the house I bought so easily, I just smile and say nothing. The argument that education is useless. Let's just say he was trying to comfort himself, as if he had sensed a hint of disbelief in my eyes. Gu-chin looked a little defiant. Don't read too much into it. I don't envy you at all, even though I can't take the college entrance exam for 3 years. With my abilities, I'll still be able to get into Harvard in 3 years. I can totally build my own business over the next 3 years, who knows? I might even be financially independent before you graduate. Besides, I have Schwer now. 3 years in exchange for Schwer's love. I don't think I've lost out. Haha, that's pretty naive. The pressure of senior year is more than most people can handle. For most, repeating a year is already the limit, so where does he get the confidence to think he can stick it out for 3 years? What's more, he doesn't want to focus solely on retaking the college entrance exam. He's thinking about starting a business while fantasizing about getting into Harvard in 3 years. That's just ridiculous. More importantly, even if the ban is lifted in 3 years, with a history of cheating on the college entrance exam, what school would dare to admit him? However, I can't be bothered to waste my breath on him. I was terrified that if I said the wrong thing again, he'd hold a grudge against me just like he did in our past life. So I just said, "That's great. I hope your dreams come true. Let him act crazy if he wants to. It's not my time he's wasting." Anyway, just as I was about to leave, I saw Lin Shui running out of his house. Her eyes were red, and there was a distinct handprint on her face. Seeing this, Gu Chen quickly stepped in to stop her. Shuier, what's wrong with you? Lin Shui, however, shook off his hand, her face a picture of anger. What else could it be? It's all because of that old witch of a mother of yours. Since you can't go to college, she takes her frustration out on me every day. Is this any way to live? Gu Chen, if your mom keeps this up, we're breaking up. Just then, Li Wan came running out after them. She pressed the issue. She said, "Son, break up with her. She's already caused you so much trouble. Why are you still seeing her? She's nothing but a jinx." Gu Chen felt a bit embarrassed. He had just finished showing off his love for her to me, saying that trading 3 years for Lin Shui's love was totally worth it and how little he cared. And then, right after that, his own mother and his girlfriend put on a huge show right in front of me. He sighed, as if he felt a little embarrassed. That was when Li Wan noticed me. She seemed to have forgotten how she had falsely accused me that day in the community square. A far cry from her previous arrogance, she now smiled warmly at me. I think Xiaoyan would be a great choice. She gets good grades. She's the perfect match for you. And she's been accepted to Harvard, so when you go to Harvard in 3 years, she can look after you. You're crazy. How on earth did she come up with such a ridiculous idea? When I caught Gu Chen's glance, which he pretended was accidental, I quickly refused. Auntie Li, I'm sorry, but I don't like boys. That was a close call. Almost let my true feelings slip. Before Gu Chen and Li Wan could react, Lin Shui burst out laughing. That's hilarious. Old lady, I'm the city's top student. I can choose between Harvard and Yale. Why on earth would I pick your son, who can't even get into college? You toad. Thinking you can eat swan meat. Li Wan was so angry she could have burst. She stamped her feet, clenched her fists, and gritted her teeth in anger. You're full of it. My son is at the top of his class. If it weren't for you, would my son really be unable to even get into college? You're such a troublemaker, you're driving me crazy. Gu Chen also looked at Lin Shui with disappointment in his eyes. Shuier, how can you say that? Isn't everything I've done for your sake? Lin Shui, however, let out a cold laugh and raised an eyebrow. Oh, because of me, Gu Chen. I didn't coerce you. And I didn't deceive you, so what right do you have to blame me for all your misfortunes? Besides, you were already an adult before the college entrance exam, so you're capable of taking responsibility for your own choices. Don't blame others for everything. Lin Shui showed absolutely no mercy. Every word struck at Gu Chen's most vulnerable spot, leaving him readied and speechless, unable to utter a single word in his defense. I have to say, Lin Shui really knows how to handle Gu Chen. Finally, Lin Shui left with one last remark. I'm giving you 3 days to sort things out with your mom. Otherwise, we're breaking up. I mean it. After hearing this, Li Wan became even more angry. You little slut. But before she could finish this time, Gu Chen finally spoke up and cut her off. Mom, stop it. Isn't things chaotic enough already? This chance encounter with Gu Chen began with him showing off, but ended with him making a fool of himself. He went out of his way to show me how well he was doing, but in the end, he just made a fool of himself yet again. In early September, I started school. Although my grades were better than in my previous life, I still chose to major in software engineering, just like I did in my previous life. First, because I am familiar with the industry's prospects. Studying this major will be more beneficial for my future career. Second, for the teachers and classmates I knew in my past life. All in all, my 4 years in college went much more smoothly than in my previous life. During the first semester of my senior year, I also secured a spot in the graduate program. The year I graduated happened to be the year Gu Chen was eligible to retake the college entrance exam. I went home for the holidays and ran into Li Wan at the small plaza in our neighborhood. Actually, it wasn't a coincidence at all, because I could tell that Li Wan must have been hanging around the small square for quite a while. She was wearing heavy makeup and a bright red cheongsam. At first, I almost didn't recognize her. She was happily showing it off to everyone. My son took the college entrance exam today. He's definitely going to get into Harvard this time. Once he gets into Harvard, I'll throw a celebration banquet for him at a hotel, and I'll invite all of you to come. However, while some were playing chess and others were working out, not a single person was willing to pay her any attention. It seems that over the past 3 years, she has managed to lose everyone's goodwill. Just then, she saw me. She immediately rushed over to strike up a conversation with me. Xiao Yan's back. Did she graduate? Did she enjoy her time at Harvard? My son is eligible to take the college entrance exam this year. 2. He's planning to apply to Harvard. When it's time to submit his applications, please remember to give Qinchin some guidance. Why are you picking on me alone? If I help Guqin with his college applications, what if something doesn't go his way and he ends up holding a grudge against me? Just as I was about to snap back at her, my mom walked over. She said in a gentle yet distant tone, "Li Wan, you must be joking. She's just a college student. How could she possibly know what to put on her college application? You should really hire a tutor for Qinchin. Leave professional matters to the professionals." Only then did Li Wan grudgingly shut her mouth. She was a little upset, but she got over it after a while. Never mind. It's my son's big day, so I won't hold this against you. But she was celebrating a little too soon. At that moment, Guqin, wearing a coat and holding his exam bag, walked through the entrance of the residential complex with his back hunched, his head bowed, and a dejected look on his face. Seeing her beloved son return, Li Wan hurried over excitedly. "Oh, Qinchin's back. How did the test go? Was it really that easy?" Suddenly, it seemed as if she realized something. "Oh, wait, it's not time yet. Why did you come out early?" Guqin sighed, looking exhausted. "Because I just don't know how. I couldn't write the essay at all, so I turned in a blank paper." Li Wan's world came crashing down. Unable to bear the blow, she suddenly collapsed to the ground. She said, her voice trembling, "A blank answer sheet. How can you be so reckless? Without those few dozen points from the essay, how are you going to get into Harvard?" Guqin, however, rubbed the bridge of his nose in frustration. "I don't want to take the remaining exams either. Let's just leave it at that." Li Wan lay on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, but Guqin walked away without a care in the world, without offering her a single word of comfort. On the way home, my mom told me everything that had happened to Guqin over the years. It turned out that Guqin had long since regretted it. He hasn't been doing very well these past few years. At first, he asked Li Wan for her 200,000 in retirement savings to start a business, opened a coffee shop, but ended up losing every last penny. Later, he started delivering food, and happened to run into Lin Shui and another man at the hotel. In a fit of rage, he beat up the man and then paid 100,000 in compensation. After that, Lin Shui broke up with Guqin. Her reasoning was, "Although, like you, I can't take the college entrance exam, you have nothing, while I at least have my beauty. Your life is already a mess, but I still have a future ahead of me. Besides, I don't even want to talk about your mom. She treats me like an enemy every single day. What kind of future could we possibly have together?" Since then, Lin Shui has never visited Guqin's home again. As for Guqin, from that point on, he seemed like a completely different person. He began shutting himself away at home and devoted himself entirely to preparing for the exam. At this point, there is still 1 year left until the college entrance exam, but even though he had already started preparing for the exam, his mood remained unstable. He would occasionally yell at his mother, throw things, and slam doors, making life a living hell for the neighbors. What's even more outrageous is that he doesn't just curse at his mother, also gets physical with her. Li Wan always looked like she'd been in a fight, with unexplained bruises appearing on her body all the time. Perhaps to protect her son's meager reputation, she didn't tell anyone how she'd gotten her injuries. When asked, she simply said she'd fallen. Later, while hitting Li Wan, Guqin shouted something. If you hadn't been picking on Lin Shui every day, how could she have left me for someone else? It's all your fault that Shui and I broke up. Huh. Why does that sound so familiar? It's just that in my last life, I was the one who took the fall for him. But in this life, it's his mother who's taking the fall for him. Whether in his past life or this one, Gu Chen would never look to himself for the cause. After all, every mistake was someone else's fault. But the fact is, the choice is always his to make. In my previous life, I simply helped him weigh the pros and cons. He was perfectly capable of deciding for himself whether or not to help Lin Shui. He chose not to help her in order to seek gain and avoid harm. Yet in the end, he blamed me for breaking them up. In this instance, Li Wan simply disliked Lin Zhu, which is only human. After all, who could say they wouldn't harbor some resentment towards someone who ruined their child's future? Gu Chen could have easily taken Lin Shui away from this home, or sternly told Li Wan that she must never bully Lin Shui again. After all, Gu Chen is Li Wan's only son, so there's no way she wouldn't take his words to heart. But he didn't do anything. When it came to Lin Shui and Li Wan, he never firmly took Lin Shui's side. On the contrary, he would sometimes, just like Li Wan, use the fact that he had sacrificed a lot for her as a way to emotionally blackmail her. The root cause of Lin Shui's decision to break up lies entirely with Gu Chen himself. Li Wan endured a year of hardship. That year's college entrance exam was Li Wan's only hope. She naively believed that her son was still the same prodigy he used to be, and that he could still easily come in first in his grade just like before. She thought that once her son got into Harvard, her hard times would be over. So, 2 days before the college entrance exam, she made a special effort to dress up and went around bragging to everyone that her son would get into Harvard on his first try, which would make her proud. But she was wrong. Her mistake was naivety. She thought her son had been a top student at school 3 years ago, so it made perfect sense that he got into Harvard on his college entrance exam this time. However, Gu Chen was once a top student because he studied diligently without interruption throughout his 3 years of high school. Because of the exceptional faculty in First High School's honors class, because of the cutting-edge college entrance exam materials provided by the school, and because of the constant competition with his outstanding classmates. But what does he have at home now? With no teachers and no classmates, studying alone at home with no one to interact with, how could he possibly do well in his studies? It might be possible if he were still the top student he used to be, but he hasn't done a single thing related to his studies in the past 2 years. And he's long since forgotten most of what he learned in high school. Li Wan's hopes were ultimately dashed. After that day, Gu Chen shut himself away at home for several days in a row. He used to think that even though he had lost Lin Shui and his startup had failed, he could at least start over after the college entrance exams. But now, his dream has been shattered. This made it impossible for him to accept the fact. No matter what. But what really sent him over the edge was yet to come. In the days following his failure on the college entrance exam, Lin Shui bought a large 3-story villa in a nearby upscale neighborhood and began living a life of financial freedom. It turns out that after breaking up with Gu Chen, Lin Shui started a social media channel. Thanks to her good looks, she gained millions of followers in just 1 year and became a major internet celebrity. Just as Gu Chen was at his lowest point, she reached the pinnacle of her life. Just as she had said, her beauty was her greatest asset. Even if she lost her chance to take the college entrance exam, her beauty would still be her safety net. But for Gu Chen, the college entrance exam was his only path. And now that path has been cut off. Gu Chen has reached a dead end. One ordinary evening, Gu Chen sneaked out of the house with a knife in his hand. The very next day, news of an internet celebrity's sudden death in an upscale residential complex made it onto the city's trending topics list. On the 3rd day, Gu Chen was arrested. After he was arrested, he specifically asked to see me. I went because I wanted to see him at his lowest point with my own eyes. It felt great. After seeing each other again, Gu Chen couldn't stop crying. After a moment, he said, wiping his nose, "Xiao Yan, why don't you stop me this time?" That's when I knew he had been reborn. 2. I laughed coldly. Stop you. I tried to stop you in my last life, and how did you repay me? You refused to take me to the hospital when I was in labor. and I died in agony. Why would I stop you? So you can kill me all over again. Gu Chen bowed his head, tears streaming down his face. After a moment, he muttered, "It's not like that. It shouldn't be like that." I shot him a sidelong glance and said sarcastically, "No, this is exactly how it was meant to be. If I hadn't stopped you in your past life, you would have lived this kind of life back then. What you're going through now is entirely your own doing. Gu Chen, I gave you a chance, and Lin Shui gave you a chance too. If you had listened to me in your past life and truly felt from the bottom of your heart that you couldn't help Lin Shui cheat, the three of us could have been a very happy family. Similarly, if you had managed to calm your mother down after Lin Shui asked you to, thanks to Lin Shui's beauty and your talent, the two of you could have easily run an account together, made a fortune, and lived a life of financial freedom. Haven't you noticed? You're clearly the one at fault. Yet you insist on blaming everything on others." I ripped away all of Gu Chen's pretense and laid bare the truth he was most reluctant to face. At that moment, a wave of remorse as overwhelming as a tidal wave surged through Gu Chen's eyes. He clutched his forehead, screaming and weeping uncontrollably. It was like he had gone crazy. Soon, the prison guard led him away. That was the last time I saw Gu Chen. Shortly thereafter, he was sentenced to death. After he was executed, Li Wan seemed to have lost her mind, and not long after, she followed him in death. As for me, I've been given a new lease on life. Gu Chen's death took with it all the grievances and misfortunes of my past life. Now, with the care of my classmates, the support of my advisor, and the love of my parents, my future lies on a broad and bright path. My wonderful life has only just begun.